Okay, now we're going to use PEMDAS to solve for the unknown. So you still learn PEMDAS, and now you do that when you're solving for the unknown. Looking at 14C, number 13, see, we have an unknown here, A. But do you see how we have a lot of different operations? We have an exponent, we have multiplication, but we have an equal sign now. So you're always going to have an equal sign and equation when you're solving for the unknown, because our goal is still to get letters on one side, numbers on the other side. But now we use PEMDAS to combine everything. PEMDAS says, do parentheses, exponents first. There's no parentheses, but there's an exponent. So I'm just going to do that one step at a time. A plus 2 squared is 4 minus 6. This little dot means times. 6 times 8 plus 2. After parentheses and exponents, PEMDAS says do multiplication first. So you have to do that first before anything else. So I didn't do anything to the A plus 4. You need to view this as a negative 6. A negative times a positive is a negative. 6 times 8, 48, plus 2 equals negative 41. Now PEMDAS says do addition and subtraction, but you do it left to right, okay? Don't do all the additions first. So we have to do our positive 4 minus 48. So if you have 4 and you get in debt 48, you're still going to be in debt. So that would be a negative 44. And then plus 2, I would recommend do these one step at a time. Left to right. Do that first. Get an answer. Then keep going. Okay? So now combine your numbers. So now you're doing these two. Negative 44 and a plus 2. You're in debt 44 or you owe 44. Someone gives you 2. You're still going to owe money. You're going to owe 42. Now, once you've combined everything that you can and you only have a letter and only have one number, now you're ready to move stuff around the equal sign. Now you're ready to get letters on one side, numbers on the other side. Okay, so I need to get rid of this, which means I need to add 42 to both sides. And so A equals, if you owe 41 and then you have 42, hallelujah, you'll actually have $1. But that's better than $0 or being in debt. Alright, now you check. So when you check, you take this, A is 1, and you put it back into the original equation everywhere you see an A. That is the only place that we see an A. So I'm going to rewrite this, but instead of writing A, I'm writing a 1. So when I check, here I have 1 plus 2 squared minus 6 times 8 plus 2 equals negative 41, and I still use PEMDAS to check. So exponents first. 1 plus 4 minus 6 times 8 plus 2. Then PEMDAS says do multiplication next. 1 plus 4, where I said that was a minus 48. Now PEMDAS says do everything from left to right. 1 plus 4, 5, because addition and subtraction you do from left to right. Minus 48, I'm going to do this one step at a time so you can watch me. 5 minus 48, I have 5, I owe 48, then I'm still going to owe 43. Watch your signs. I owe 43, someone gives me 2. I'm going to still owe 41, and it checks. So if your solution is correct, then this should check. Alright, let's look at 14D, number 5. Again, we're using PEMDAS to solve. You need to look at the left side and the right side. Use PEMDAS on the left side, use PEMDAS on the right side. So PEMDAS says do parentheses and exponents first. I need to do parentheses first, and I can do exponents as well. Sometimes I can do them at the same time. So I'm not going to do anything with this 2x, but I'm going to do in my parentheses. This means you owe 8 and you owe 4 more. If you owe 8 and owe 4 more, you're going to owe a total of 12. 3 squared is 9. Let's go to the right hand side. So exponents in parentheses first. I'm going to do 2 cubed. Not do anything to the negative 5x. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2, 8. Minus 7. Alright, so next PEMDAS says do multiplication and division. When I have a number in front of parentheses, that means multiplication. So both of these mean multiplication. This means 2x times negative 12. You multiply numbers to numbers. So literally this means 2 times x times negative 12. So this means, I'm just showing you, it means 2 times negative 12 times x. Because by commutative property, I can move these around and they still mean the same thing. That's why you multiply your numbers together. So this is a positive 2 times a negative 12. A positive times a negative is a negative. And 2 times 12, 24, and then you still have the x. You're multiplying these numbers together. Plus 9 equals, literally this means negative 5 times x times 8. I can move them around if I want. Negative 5 times 8 times x because of the commutative property. So multiply your numbers together. Negative 5 times 8. A negative times a positive is a negative, and 5 times 8, 40, and then you still have your x, minus 7. Now I'm down to where I can't add x's to numbers. I've got x's and numbers on one side, x's and numbers. Now I'm ready to move stuff around. Okay, we're getting letters on one side and numbers on the other side. So I want to get rid of this, which means I need to add 40x to both sides. So that goes away. I have 40, I owe 24. That would be 6. No. 16. Ten, 3, 4. Okay, so that would be a positive. If I have 40 and I owe 24, positive 16x, and then plus my 9 equals negative 7. Now I need to get my numbers together, which means I need to get rid of this. It's a positive 9, so I need to subtract it to both sides. So 16x equals, I owe 7 and I owe 9 more. That means I owe 16. You're adding these together. Now remember to get rid of this. When you have a number in front of x, that means 16 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I need to divide it to get it to go away. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So 16 divided by 16 is a 1x, or just x. A negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 16 divided by 16, 1. So x equals negative 1. Now we check it. When you check it, you're taking this answer and you're putting it back in the original equation everywhere you see an x. There's an x there, and there's an x there. So I'm going to come up to the side and check it. Here, I'm going to start with my original equation. Remember, 2 in front of a letter means multiplication. 2 times x. So 2 times negative 1. We said x is negative 1. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I owe 8, I owe 4, which means I owe 12, and that's all multiplied. When you have parentheses, that means 2 times this number. So that's why they're all together in parentheses. Plus, I'm going to go and do that. 3 squared is 9 equals negative 5 times my negative 1, because x is negative 1, times, this is negative 5, times this, times that, and 2 cubed is 8 minus 7. PEMDAS says do multiplication before addition and subtraction, so I'm going to do all of that. 2 times negative 1 is a negative 2, still times my negative 12, plus 9. Negative 5 times a negative 1. A negative times a negative is a positive, so it would be a positive 5. I'm just going one step at a time. Negative 2 times negative 12. A negative times a negative is a positive, and that would be a positive 24 plus 9. 5 times 8, 40. 24 plus 9, 13, 33. 40 minus 7, 33, and it checks. Okay, now let's look at 14C, number 17. Still using PEMDAS. PEMDAS says do parentheses and exponents first. Look in your parentheses. F minus 1. Can you add or subtract letters to numbers? No. So there's nothing you can do with that. So look at here. You can do your exponents. 8 squared. That means 8 times 8, 64. Just rewrite your parentheses. Here I have parentheses. Can I add letters to numbers? No. So just rewrite that. When you have a number in front of your parentheses, what does that mean? It means multiplication. It means this times everything in the parentheses. So what do? We distribute. So this number needs to get multiplied. It needs to get distributed to everything in the parentheses. So 64 times F, 64F. 64 times a -1, -64. 5 times 6F, 30F. 5 times a -6, -30. Watch your signs. Now we're to the point we only have letters, numbers, letters, numbers. Now we're ready to move everything around the equal sign. Get letters on one side, numbers on the other side. I want to get rid of this. So it's a +30, so I need to subtract it away. So do it to the other side with my F's. Those go away. 64 minus 30, 34F. Still bring down your 64 equals your -30. Don't lose that negative sign. Okay, now I want to get rid of this. It's being subtracted, so do the opposite, add it to get it to go away. So 34F equals, that'd be 6. You owe 30, someone gives you 64, so it's for sure going to be positive, and that's not right. Okay. I don't know, I'm borrowing in my head because I saw these 0s and 4s. I don't need to borrow. See, even if you just write it out visually, you actually see it. So 34. So, okay, now I need to get rid of this number. This means 34 times F. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I need to divide this to get it to go away. You have to do it to both sides. 34 divided by 34 cancels to be 1F or just F. 34 divided by 34, 1. Positive 1. So now we check it. So checking it means take this and putting it into the original equation everywhere you see an F. So we put it there and we put it there. So just rewrite this over here. So to check my original equation, 8 squared, I'm going to go ahead and do that. 8 times 8, 64. Putting in a 1 here for F. That would be 1 minus 1 equals 5 times 6 times F means 6 times 1 minus 6. So Pemdas says do parentheses first. 64, 1 minus 1, 0. 5 times, do this first in the parentheses because Pemdas says do multiplication before doing subtraction, and we are in our parentheses. So 6 times 1, 6, minus 6. 0 times anything, 0. This would be 5 times 6 minus 6 is 0. And then 0 times anything on the right, 0. So it checks.